Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Thanks. I don't normally stop for breakfast before work, but that morning I did. It was early, too early, maybe 4:50 a.m., and I'd left my apartment in a hurry. I wasn't hungry exactly, but my stomach felt weird, empty but anxious. The only thing open at that hour near Lakeport Avenue was a rundown gas station, a 24-hour BP wedged between an old car wash and a shuttered liquor store. I'd walked past it 100 times on the way to the early bus that got me to the city. But that morning was different. My name's Alina Shaw. I was 27 then, a part-time substitute teacher and assistant volleyball coach for a small charter school in Darrington Heights, just outside Chicago. I was also broke, stressed, and so tired that I could barely keep track of what day it was. That morning, the cold mist in the air made me think of my hometown near Surat, the way fog would roll through the fields before sunrise. I missed that, so I ducked into the BP station mostly for the heat, maybe a cup of burnt coffee. I had about 10 minutes before the bus. It was almost completely empty inside, just rows of snacks, a humming refrigerator full of soft drinks, and an older guy behind the counter who didn't look up once. I grabbed a banana and a bottled water, dropped a few crumpled bills on the counter, and headed back out. That's when I noticed him. A tall man in a black hoodie standing at the corner of the gas station, right where the alley met the street. I only saw him because of the way the mist thinned under the yellow-orange parking lot lights. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there. Too still. I pulled my jacket tighter around me and walked past him. I wasn't scared yet, not exactly, not until I heard him step behind me. I picked up the pace, turning the corner to get back to the main road when I heard the words loud and clear. "Put down your fucking purse." I froze, turned. He was pointing a gun at my chest. The banana slipped out of my hand and hit the ground with a wet plop. I wasn't carrying a purse, just a sports bag slung over my shoulder with a whistle, clipboard, and some printed lesson plans. I raised both hands. Okay, I'll put it down," I said, trying not to let my voice crack. He motioned with the gun toward the alley. "Put your shit down and walk over here. Get on the ground." I looked behind me. No one. The bus wouldn't come for another 7 minutes. I tried to keep him talking. "Okay, I'll put my bag down right here, yeah?" I crouched slowly, laying it down near the edge of the sidewalk. He stepped closer. I said, "Get on the fucking ground." I nodded quickly, heart hammering, and knelt. The concrete was wet and cold through my jeans. "Okay, see? I'm down. You can take it. Just take it, please." He stepped forward and straddled me, gun now pressed against my temple. I couldn't see his face under the black mask, but I felt his breathing shift. He leaned in closer. And then I felt it. That pause. That moment of stillness. It's hard to explain, but something changed. I think it clicked for him right then that I was a woman. I don't know what tipped him off. Maybe my voice, maybe my earrings, maybe just instinct. He stood up suddenly. "Get up. Come with me." He motioned down the alley, back behind the gas station where the dumpsters were, where no one would hear a thing. Something in my stomach dropped. Not fear, resistance. There had been a rash of assaults in the area, and women pulled into alleys even during the day. I remembered the news segments, how the reporters talked like the women had been careless for walking alone, like it was their fault, like they should have seen it coming. That wasn't going to be me. He shouted again, "Fucking move." So I did. I stood up slowly, hands raised, and whispered, "Okay. Okay. I'm following you." He turned slightly, motioning toward the alley. His gun shifted with him. And that's when I ran. I didn't think, I just sprinted, hard, fast. I ducked my head in case he shot, screamed without meaning to. My voice echoed across the street, breaking the silence of dawn. I didn't look back, just kept running. I made it 7 blocks before I stopped, heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear anything else. I crouched behind a parked SUV, eyes scanning every shadow, every person. My breath made clouds in the air, my fingers were shaking. Eventually, I doubled back to my apartment. took a roundabout path just in case. Locked the door and called the police. An officer came by around 7 a.m. They were polite, maybe a little too polite. He wrote down my statement, asked for the banana peel as evidence, which made me laugh in a way that didn't feel funny at all. He said, "Probably just some junkie." You're lucky he spooked. I didn't say anything, just nodded. I didn't go to work that day, or the day after. For a long time, I couldn't walk past that gas station without my legs tensing up. I started carrying pepper spray. I stopped listening to music on early walks. I wore my hair tucked into my hat. But the worst part? It wasn't the moment I thought I might die. It was the moment I realized he changed his mind about what he wanted. That moment when he realized I was a woman and what could have happened next. And then how quickly his tone shifted, like I became more than a target. Something else. Something worse. It didn't end there. I wish it had. 3 days later, on my way to school, I saw another girl across the street from the same BP. Teenager, maybe 16. She was on her phone, standing too close to that alley. I yelled, crossed the road without thinking. Scared the hell out of her. I apologized and told her to keep walking, away from the alley. She thought I was crazy, but she listened. I never saw the man again. Not in person. But then came the report. A woman had been attacked 2 blocks away. A nurse walking to the early train. Her description matched mine almost exactly. South Asian, athletic building, hair in a low braid. She didn't get away. I kept wondering if he'd followed me, if I led him to her. My roommate Nisha found me crying on the bathroom floor that night. I told her everything. She held me for a long time, then made chai and sat with me until sunrise. We printed out flyers warning other women in the neighborhood. We started a WhatsApp group, walked people to the bus stop, reported every shadowy figure near the gas station. I finally bought a stun gun. I started teaching self-defense basics to my volleyball girls during warm-ups. Just little things. How to break a wrist grab, where to hit, how to scream from the gut. Most of them laughed, but a few didn't. 6 months later, a man was arrested in the next county over. Armed robbery, same M.O. mask, gun, targeting women alone at dawn. It wasn't him. They never caught the guy from the gas station. It's been years. I'm 32 now. I live farther from the city in a townhouse with bright windows. I don't coach anymore, but I work full-time with high school girls at a nonprofit. We talk about safety, boundaries, confidence, power. I still think about that morning, about the banana peel on the sidewalk, the silence before he spoke, the alley I didn't go down. Sometimes I have dreams where I do go, where I hesitate, where I follow, and sometimes I dream of another girl walking alone, bag on her shoulder, steps light with fatigue and routine, a man watching. I wake up gasping, but I wake up, and I'm still here. I never liked working nights, but after everything that happened with my mum's cancer bills, I didn't really have a choice. By the time I was 25, most of my friends were either in proper careers or had at least made peace with their minimum wage jobs. I, on the other hand, was wiping down counters at a 24-hour petrol station just outside South Hemsley, a small fog-prone town in West Yorkshire that felt forgotten even during the day. The gas station was called Valley Fuel, though everyone around here just called it the Green Station because of the peeling mint paint on its signboard. I'd started about 8 months ago doing evening shifts part-time to pay off my car. After Mum's 3rd hospital admission, I begged the manager for full-time work. The only slot open was the graveyard shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and I took it without blinking. I told myself it would be quiet, peaceful even. Less customer drama, no school kids, fewer drunks. I was wrong. There was something off about nights. I don't mean ghosts or anything like that, but the vibe, the kind of people who came through, the silence between engine sounds, the way the fluorescent lights buzzed over the tarmac like they were the only thing keeping the dark at bay. It all got under your skin if you stood still long enough. It was the Monday after bonfire night when it happened. Chilly, mist curling around the pumps and the road practically deserted except for the occasional lorry headed north. I was halfway through my shift, standing behind the counter with a half-eaten peanut butter sandwich and my fourth cup of instant coffee. I remember exactly what I was doing, scrolling through a text from my brother Jamie asking if I'd called the hospital about Mum's scan results. I hadn't. I felt guilty about it, but I didn't want bad news on the clock. That's when the door chimed. Looked up, expecting another tired delivery driver or a bleary-eyed smoker in for Rizlas. Instead, I saw a man in a dark hoodie, face half covered with a surgical mask and hands buried in his coat pockets. He walked in like he belonged there, casual, unhurried, like he'd just come to grab a Coke. I remember he didn't make eye contact, just strolled past the snacks and up toward the drinks fridge. A quiet customer, I thought. No big deal. He came to the counter with a bottle of water and a bag of crisps. He placed them down gently and said without looking up, "You've got a quiet place here." I gave a polite nod. "Yeah, usually is after midnight." Still looking down, he said, "Ever get scared working out here alone?" That caught me off guard. I gave a nervous laugh. "Only when someone asks me that." He didn't smile, didn't even blink, just said, "Must be easy to rob." At first I thought he was joking. I waited for him to grin or chuckle or something. He didn't. "Sorry," I said. He looked up, and that's when I saw it. His eyes, cold, unreadable, no twitch, no flicker of amusement, just stillness. "I said," he repeated calmly, "this place must be easy to rob." I felt my stomach sink. I guess," I said, trying to sound bored. "I mean, we've got cameras and a panic button, but yeah, not Fort Knox or anything." He nodded slowly like I'd confirmed something he already knew. Then he leaned in and said, almost whispering, "I want you to stay very calm and not make a sound. You're going to unlock the door to the back office. You're going to give me what's in the safe, and you're not going to do anything stupid." He lifted his coat slightly, just enough to show the handle of a black handgun tucked into his waistband. I froze. Every survival instinct in my body screamed. My hands turned ice cold. My brain scrambled. Where's the panic button? How far's the back office? How fast can I run? But none of that mattered. He had a gun. I felt myself nodding before I even realized it. "Okay," I said softly. "Okay, just don't hurt me." "Good," he said. "Let's keep it that way." I led him around the counter, moving slowly. My shoes squeaked against the cheap tile floor. My hand brushed the drawer where the panic button was hidden under the till, but I couldn't bring myself to press it. He was watching every movement, and I wasn't ready to gamble my life on a 5-second delay. When we got to the back office, I unlocked the door with shaking hands. Inside, the room was cluttered, old receipts, folders, a busted chair I never sat in. The safe sat in the corner, just under the CCTV system. "Open it," he said. "I don't have the main code," I said truthfully. "It's time-locked. I can only open the till drop." He stared at me for a long second, trying to figure out if I was lying. Then he stepped forward slowly, closing the gap between us. He smelled like engine oil and sweat. I backed up instinctively until my back hit the desk. "Don't lie to me," he said, voice colder now. "I'm not, I swear. I don't have the key. They don't give night staff full access. It's all automatic till drops." My voice was cracking. He paused, then something shifted in his eyes. "Take off your jacket." My throat closed. "What?" "Take off your fucking jacket." I stood there, frozen. I knew what this was becoming. I had heard the stories. I remembered what happened to the girl who worked overnights at the Shell station 2 towns over. No one found her for hours. "I won't tell anyone," I said, already trembling. "I said take it off." I made a choice. Not logical, not smart, just human. I said, "Okay. Okay, I'll do it. Just let me take it off slowly." He nodded just once. I raised my hands to the zip. Then, all in one motion, I grabbed the half-full coffee mug on the desk and threw it into his face. It splashed across his eyes and he screamed, stumbling back, clutching his face. I didn't wait. I shoved the office door open and ran, out through the counter area past the snack aisle, pushing through the glass doors into the cold, misty air. I could hear him behind me, shouting curses, banging into shelves. But I didn't stop. I ran across the empty lot, past Pump 5, across the road into the car park of the abandoned garden center opposite. I ducked behind a rusted wheelbarrow display and dialed 999 with trembling fingers. They arrived 8 minutes later. I watched from the bushes as two cruisers pulled up to the station, blue lights spinning. One of the officers found me, still crouched, still shaking. I couldn't even speak, I just pointed. They didn't catch him. The cameras showed him entering. Not clearly. Mask on, hood up, one blurry angle, then static. He'd cut the line with something when I led him into the back. The only evidence he was ever there, besides the trauma welded into my chest, was a soggy mug on the office floor and his muddy footprints leading out past the back of the building. Aftermath. I quit the next day. I didn't ask for the rest of the week off. I didn't fill out forms. I left the station keys on the counter and never went back. I stayed at Jamie's for 2 months. I started flinching every time a door clicked, every time a stranger walked behind me. I avoided petrol stations like they were crime scenes. Sometimes I'd find myself replaying it all at 3 a.m., wondering what would have happened if I'd frozen, if I'd tried to hit the panic button, if he'd pulled the trigger. But most of all, I wondered what kind of person walks into a petrol station with a gun and a plan that ends in silence, not haunted by ghosts or monsters, just a man, a real man, breathing the same air, wearing the same hoodie any bloke could buy at Asda. That's what stays with me. Not the coffee mug, not the screams, not even the gun. Just the way he asked so calmly, "Ever get scared working out here alone?" And how I laughed. I never used to think much about working late. Some of my best work happened after hours. When the office was quiet, the phones had stopped ringing, and I could finally hear myself think. I'd been working in admin and scheduling for a transport firm based just outside of Lexley, a sleepy industrial suburb in southern Illinois. The office was a long 2-story unit wedged between a row of dusty supply warehouses and a family-run gas station that never seemed to close. I'd been at the company 3 years. My coworker Devin joined 6 months ago, and we got paired up to manage inbound routing projects. He was the type of guy who always had headphones on but somehow never missed a word you said. Good listener, sharp. We weren't exactly close, but we had a rhythm. On that particular Thursday, we were stuck finishing a month-end routing report that kept throwing errors in the logistics software. It was one of those nights where your brain runs out of steam before your body does. Around 7:45 p.m., Devin stood up and rubbed the back of his neck. "You want something from the Shell station?" he asked. I blinked at him. "What?" "The gas station. I'm gonna grab a drink or something sweet. You want anything?" I looked out the window. The sky was that dead gray blue between daylight and night. The warehouse lights across the street flickered in patches, and the Shell station's sign glowed just a faint yellow through the haze. "Yeah, I could use a break," I said. "I'll come." The Shell station was right next door, literally less than a minute walk. We didn't need to lock up the office since the overnight janitor Annie would be in shortly. We just left our stuff and headed out the back door. It was unusually quiet outside. A bit of wind, a pair of crows making awful sounds near the dumpster. The air smelled faintly of burnt oil and fried food from the takeout place 2 blocks down. As we stepped into the gas station, the warm overhead lights buzzed faintly. There was an older man at the front counter, maybe mid-40s, heavy-set, bald, wearing a Shell uniform shirt that looked one size too small. No name tag. He didn't greet us. In fact, he didn't even seem to look up. He just stared forward like he was focused on something I couldn't see behind the counter. Devin and I exchanged a glance. We moved through the aisles, made light jokes about the snacks. The hot fries were retired military grade, according to Devin. I grabbed a bottle of water and a protein bar. Devin picked up a soda and a plastic-wrapped sandwich. When we went to the counter, the man finally looked at us, and I swear I felt something off. Like he wasn't just looking at us, but through us. His eyes were wide, too wide. He didn't blink. Devin said, "Evening." No response. He just rang us up slowly, one item at a time. Didn't tell us the total, just stared until I looked at the screen and paid with my card. The machine beeped loudly when it processed. Still, the man said nothing. "Rough shift?" Devin asked with a smile. That's when the man blinked. Just once. Then said, "I don't like your tone." Devin laughed awkwardly. "I was just kidding, man. No harm." The man tilted his head, almost like a dog trying to understand a new sound. He didn't speak again. Just slid our items across the counter without a bag and stood there, breathing heavily through his nose. We both walked out, trying not to look back. Devin muttered, "Okay. That guy needs a nap or therapy." I nodded. What the hell was that? Maybe he's just cracked from doing overnight shifts too long. We went back to the office, kept working, but the weirdness stuck with me. Something about that look in his eyes, like he was watching a completely different movie than the rest of us. We wrapped up our work around 9:05. The building was silent by then. Annie, the janitor, had come and gone early. Most of the warehouse lights were off. Devin grabbed his keys and said, "Want to walk to the lot together?" There was a gravel lot about a 6-minute walk behind the industrial strip, tucked near some old train tracks. It was free to use but had no lights, no cameras. It was where most of us parked since the front spaces were metered. "Yeah," I said, "let's go." We stepped out. The street was nearly empty. The air felt still, heavier than before. As we walked past the Shell station again, I saw the light was still on inside. I looked without meaning to, and I saw him, the same guy, standing behind the counter. But this time he wasn't facing the register. He was turned toward the window, staring out, at us. His face was wrong. I don't know how else to say it. His mouth was slightly open, his jaw slack, and he didn't move, just watched. Devin saw him too. "Shit, he's still there?" I forced a smile. "Don't look, just walk." But then we heard the chime of the station door. I glanced back. He was stepping out. No jacket, just the Shell shirt, sweat stains under the arms, and that same wide-eyed stare. He stood under the fluorescent light, barely blinking. Then he started walking. Same direction as us. We both kept going, fast. I didn't want to assume anything, but then Devin muttered, "There's no way he just happened to come out now." "He's definitely following," I whispered. We sped up. So did he. We didn't run. Not yet. But I felt my pulse climb into my throat. When we reached the corner before the parking lot path, Devin pulled me to the right. "We're detouring," he whispered. "See if he copies us." We turned down a short access road behind a shuttered auto body shop. He followed. No hesitation. Devin turned. "Hey!" he called. "Are you following us?" The man stopped, stared, didn't respond, just breathed. Devin shouted again. "Back off, man. What the hell's your problem?" Still nothing. We kept walking, faster now, down the access path, around the lot, then finally toward the gravel clearing. The guy stayed with us all the way, always 10 or 15 paces behind. When we got to the lot, he stopped at the edge. We turned around. He stood there, motionless, breathing hard. Devin raised his keychain. "You follow us one more step and I swear..." But the man didn't move. I got into my car, hands shaking. Devin did the same. As I started the engine, my headlights washed over him. He was smiling. Not a wide grin, not even a smirk. Just a tiny frozen smile, like someone trying to imitate what they thought human happiness should look like. We both drove out quickly. I glanced in the rearview mirror just before I turned out of the lot. He was still standing there, in the dark, watching us leave. We never parked in that lot again. A few weeks later, I noticed the Shell station had new staff. I asked one of the girls at the till, just casually, what happened to the other guy. She said, "What guy?" I described him. She shook her head. "Only people working this location in the past month are me, Jared, and Luis, nobody else." Older bald guy, big build, wore the shell uniform? She frowned. You sure you're not confusing it with another station? I wasn't. Devin and I don't talk about it much now. But sometimes when it's late and I stop for gas on the way home from work, I'll look toward the station window before I go inside. And I'll wonder if he's still in there, watching. Only stopped for gas. It was just after 2 a.m. early Sunday morning and the highway was dead. I'd been driving all night from Waco to Lubbock after staying later than planned at my aunt's retirement dinner. The drive was supposed to be uneventful, long, boring and silent. But then my gas light came on just north of Abilene, somewhere around a stretch of road with nothing but farmland and the occasional flicker of an old barn. I pulled into the first open place I saw, a dusty, dimly lit Valero at exit 226. There were no other cars at the pump, no noise except the wind slapping loose plastic against the rusted light posts. The building looked like it hadn't been updated since the 90s. Cracked Pepsi signs, a fading poster advertising Marlboros for $4.20 a pack, and flickering overhead lights that buzzed so loud I thought the car might vibrate from it. I slid my card into the reader. Declined. Tried again. Declined. I sighed, took my wallet, and headed inside to pay. The bell above the door let out a sharp clang when I pushed it open. Be with you in a sec, a voice called from behind the glass fridge near the back. A woman, early 30s, tired eyes, messy bun, was restocking bottled water. She wore a blue shirt that had the Valero logo mostly peeled off and a faded name tag that read, Jamie. No worries, I said, stepping up to the counter. While I waited, I looked around the place. Candy aisles mostly empty. Freezer cases nearly bare. The kind of place that stays open all night, not for profit, but out of routine. That's when I saw it. A small bulletin board behind the counter, torn flyers, an old ad for a lost dog. But one page caught my attention, a missing person poster printed in black and white. The photo was grainy, like it had been copied too many times. But I knew that face, even in low light, even with the years between us. It was Sadie Prescott. I froze. Jamie finally came up to the counter and gave me a look. You okay? I pointed. That girl, Sadie, I used to know her. Jamie's face didn't change, but I saw something in her eyes, something cautious. She disappeared around here? I asked, already knowing the answer. Few years back, she said slowly. Car was found abandoned off Larkspur Trail, about 5 miles from here. I nodded. The air in the store suddenly felt thick, sticky. She was my best friend, I said, back in high school. Jamie didn't say anything, just turned toward the register. What pump? 3. $50? I handed over a card without thinking. I didn't know she went missing, I said. Jamie didn't look up. Most people didn't. It didn't make the news, just local chatter. One of those cases where people stop asking after a while. She just disappeared? I asked. Jamie finally looked up. Number she left a voicemail. Cops said it sounded like she was running from someone. On the drive out of the station, I couldn't shake it. Sadie's face, frozen in grainy black and white, looking back at me. I hadn't seen her since the summer after senior year. She was headed to Colorado. We drifted naturally after graduation. Life happens. But even years later, she'd still message me on my birthday. A photo, a stupid inside joke, a memory from when we were 13. I hadn't heard from her in 4 years. Now I knew why. Back at my apartment in Lubbock, I stayed up. I found her old Instagram. Dead. Last post from June 2021. A blurry photo of a trail with a caption that read, "Somewhere in the middle of nowhere is exactly where I need to be." I scrolled through Reddit, local forums, news archives. Nothing official. No articles beyond the usual templated missing person in Bell County post. I finally found a thread in a Texas true crime forum. Just 6 comments, all vague. She was last seen at a gas station off exit 226. Someone said they saw her talking to a guy in a green pickup. Her phone was never found. No one looked hard. Too quiet out there. Creepy part is someone kept updating her Spotify playlist for months. She called her mom once, left a voicemail, said she was being watched. I just sat there, heart thudding, staring at the screen. I called her old number. It rang 3 times and went to voicemail. I hung up. 10 minutes later, I got a text. Why are you looking for her? The number was the same one from high school. Her number. I didn't respond right away. My hands were shaking. Then another text came. Don't make the same mistake. I finally typed, who is this? No response. I went back to Valero the next day. Jamie wasn't there. A tall man behind the counter said she was off indefinitely. I asked about Sadie. He said nothing, just stared. The missing flyer was gone from the wall. That night I dreamt of her. She stood on the edge of a road with pine trees all around. Same blue hoodie she wore in high school. Her mouth moved but made no sound. Her eyes were wide. Behind her a shadow moved, tall, deliberate, stepping just out of the headlights. I woke up drenched in sweat. The texts continued over the next week. You're not helping her. You'll end up like her. Turn around. I couldn't stop. I called her mom. We hadn't talked in years, but when I said my name, she didn't hesitate. She's gone, she said. Please, don't make this harder. I saw her face at a gas station. They still have her missing flyer up. Silence. Then, that gas station is where she made her last call. And where someone mailed me a flash drive 3 weeks later. It had audio. Her voice. Screaming. I drove back to exit 226. The store was closed, windows boarded. A sheriff's cruiser sat outside. The deputy stepped out before I could get close. This station's condemned, he said. You need to leave. I'm trying to find out what happened to Sadie Prescott. His face changed. Get back in your car, he said. Now. As I drove off, I looked in the rearview mirror. The deputy wasn't watching the road. He was looking into the trees. 2 days later, someone broke into my apartment. Nothing was stolen. Just my notes, scribbled maps, saved forum threads, all scattered. My laptop left open to Sadie's contact page. A text buzzed on my phone at 3:09 a.m. You're in too deep. I met up with someone from the Reddit thread. Screen name, Run Rabbit Run. His real name was Connor. He claimed to have grown up near Bell County. He told me about rumors. A man in a green truck seen watching trailheads. A cabin Sadie might have been living in. And the Whisper Man. A local legend about someone who stalked hikers and campers, whispering through the woods before vanishing them. I think he's real, Connor said. I think she found him. We hiked to where her car was found. Larkspur Trail. The trees were silent. Too silent. We found the ruins of a fire pit. Burnt logs, old beer cans, and a single Polaroid buried under ash. It was Sadie, eyes wide, dirt on her face, and behind her, blurry but unmistakable, a shape, human, watching. Connor disappeared a week later. His Reddit account was deleted. I went to the police again. They brushed me off. That night, a voicemail appeared on my phone. No number, just static. And her voice, whispering, he never leaves. Then screaming, I haven't slept much since. Some nights I hear my door creak, but nothing's moved. Sometimes I wake up with my phone in my hand, open to old messages I didn't read. Sometimes there's whispering through the vents. I don't know what Sadie found in those woods, but it found her back. And now it's watching me. I don't call her number anymore. But I never block it either, because if one day she does call, I want to be ready. Just in case she's still out there, just in case she's still alive, or something wearing her face wants me to believe she is. I always stopped at the same gas station on my way home from night classes. It wasn't the cheapest one in town or the cleanest, but it was lit just enough to make the parking lot feel less like a murder scene. The BP off County Road 19, sandwiched between a discount tobacco outlet and an abandoned bait shop. They had bad coffee, a half-dead vending machine, and a clerk named Jace who never said more than a few words at a time. I liked it that way. This was in Mason Hollow, Indiana, a town no one moves to, only through. Population maybe 8,000. The kind of place where the same high school teachers stayed for decades and you could run into your old gym coach bagging groceries. I moved back 2 years ago after a bad breakup and a failed move to Oregon. My folks had left town by then, but I still had a few cousins around, and the house I grew up in was just sitting there, empty, quiet. So I stayed, and slowly I fell into a rhythm, teaching part-time at the community center, taking night classes in psych and counseling at the satellite campus 30 miles out, stopping at that same BP station 3 times a week. Then one night I saw her, or I thought I did. It had been raining hard for hours, thick Indiana rain that made the road disappear under your headlights. I pulled in around 10:45 p.m., wiping the fog from my windshield. As I got out, I noticed someone standing near the side of the building, right at the edge of the yellow light coming off the roof lamps. Long dark hoodie, small frame. Her hands were buried in her sleeves. And even from across the lot, I swear, I knew it was Harper. My best friend from high school. The one who disappeared 6 years ago. Harper Langdon was the kind of person who made the world feel less fake. She hated small talk, liked photography, wore chipped nail polish and smoked cloves under the bleachers when we were 17. We met in sophomore English, did every project together, stayed up till 3 a.m., texting about life and death and how much we wanted to get out of Mason Hollow. Then she left, right after graduation. Said she was moving to Bloomington to crash with her sister and start a photo internship. We talked less after that, but she always texted on my birthday, June 11th without fail. Even the year my dad died, even when I stopped replying. But then one year, nothing. No texts, no posts, no photos. I tried calling. The number had been disconnected. I messaged her sister but never got a reply. After a while, I let it go. Or I thought I had. That night at the gas station, I walked inside, heart hammering. Jace was there as usual, flipping through a battered magazine. "Hey," I said, "who's that outside?" He looked up. "Where?" "Over by the ice machine." He frowned and leaned over the counter, squinting through the window. "No one there." I turned, confused. The space was empty, just shadows and rain, but I swear I saw her. Same shape, same nervous stance, same way she used to stand when she was uncomfortable. I didn't say anything else, just grabbed a water and left, heart pounding in my throat. Back home, I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked up Harper's name. Nothing new. Still marked missing in some unofficial forums. Reddit threads that led nowhere. A Facebook group with 6 members, mostly posting prayers and blurry screenshots. One old comment said she'd been seen in northern Indiana. Another claimed she'd been spotted in a truck stop in Kentucky. All unconfirmed, all dead ends. But one post stuck out. It was dated 3 years ago. "If you knew Harper Langdon in Mason Hollow and are still in town, please contact me. There are things you need to know." Posted by at Still Watching 1979. The account was deleted. I started checking the gas station more often. Different days, different times. I even hung around longer, pretending to fix my tire or buy a snack I didn't need. Nothing. Until the following Tuesday. 10:21 p.m. She was back. Same spot, same hoodie. This time I stepped toward her. "Harper?" I said, my voice caught halfway between a whisper and a plea. She didn't move, just stared at me from under the hood. I could barely make out her face. Pale, tired, eyes that looked older than I remembered, not scared, just resigned. "Where have you been?" I asked. "I looked for you. Everyone did." She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, a car turned into the lot, headlights sweeping across us. And just like that, she bolted around the side of the building and vanished into the night. I chased after her, but there was no one there. Just wet gravel and the sound of rain sliding off the roof. That night I got a text from an unknown number. "Why now?" I stared at the screen, cold rising in my gut. I typed back, "Harper, is this you?" No reply. The next few days were a blur. I kept my phone on me at all times. I couldn't concentrate at work. I started dreaming about her. Visions of her walking barefoot through the gas station, camera in hand, whispering things I couldn't hear. Then I got another message. "Stop looking, you'll end up like me." I texted back again. "What happened to you?" No answer. I decided to drive to Harper's old house. Her mom had moved away years ago, but I remembered the address. The house was empty now, the porch sagging and the windows boarded. I stood on the sidewalk for a long time before going up to the front step. And that's when I saw it. A single photo tucked into the doorframe. Harper, taken recently. Same hoodie, same haunted eyes. On the back in faded ink, 10:21 p.m., BP station watching. My skin crawled. I reached out to an old classmate, Kara, who used to be close with Harper too. When I mentioned the gas station, her voice dropped. "Are you serious?" "Yeah. I thought I was going crazy. I saw her there like last fall. But she looked wrong, like she wanted to speak but couldn't, like something was stopping her." "Did you tell anyone?" "No one would have believed me. Hell, I didn't believe me." I went to the police with everything. The photo, the sightings, the texts. They listened, took notes, said they'd follow up. Then nothing. No callbacks, no updates. 2 days later, I came home to find my living room window cracked open, my phone charger unplugged, and a new photo on my kitchen table. Me, standing at the gas station, talking to Harper. Only, I didn't remember anyone taking that picture. There was no date, no message, just that same sick feeling growing in my chest like mold. I started digging harder, tried tracing the number, no results. Ran reverse image searches on the photos. Nothing. Then one night around midnight I got a call. Private number. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hello?" Nothing. Then clicking, rhythmic like fingernails on wood. Then breathing, close, wrong. Then a voice. "Heron, you weren't supposed to see me." Then silence. I don't sleep much anymore. The gas station is still there, still open. Jace still flips his magazine and nods like nothing's wrong. But every Tuesday at 10:21 p.m. I go there and wait. Sometimes I think I see her. Sometimes I think I hear her. Just around the corner, just out of reach. I don't know what happened to Harper, not really, but I think someone or something took her. And now she's stuck between worlds, still watching, still waiting, maybe for me, maybe for you. I was 19 when I started working the night shift at a gas station just outside the small town of Ridgemont, Texas. It wasn't exactly the kind of job anyone dreamed of, but at that point in my life, I was drifting. I had dropped out of community college after my first semester, mostly because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my mom kept insisting I start paying her some rent if I was going to live under her roof. The gas station job came through my uncle, who knew the owner. It was an old place, not one of those shiny modern stations with a dozen pumps and LED screens blaring ads at you. This was the type of spot where truckers came off the highway to grab coffee, or locals stopped for cigarettes and beer on their way home. There were 4 pumps out front, a flickering neon sign that said Quick Fill, and a cramped little store that smelled like a mix of motor oil and microwaved burritos. I actually didn't mind the job at first. Nights were quiet. I'd sweep the floors, restock shelves, and kill time reading or scrolling my phone. I wasn't making much money, but there was something peaceful about the stillness. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the soft static of the little radio behind the counter, the occasional sound of a truck rumbling in. It all made me feel like the world slowed down at night just for me. But that peace didn't last. It was the second month on the job when I had the encounter that changed how I saw everything. That night started like any other. It was a Friday in October, the air cool enough that I kept my hoodie zipped up. The shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I remember my coworker, Denise, leaving around 9:50. She always worked evenings before me. Good luck, Alex, she said, brushing her long hair behind her ear. Friday nights bring out the weirdos. I laughed it off, but she wasn't entirely wrong. Friday nights, we'd get drunk locals wandering in, sometimes rowdy teenagers daring each other to shoplift candy, or the occasional sketchy guy who paid in crumpled bills and avoided eye contact. But most nights passed without incident. Around midnight, I stepped outside to stretch my legs. The boulevard was empty, just the hiss of the highway in the distance. The gas station sat on the edge of a wealthier neighborhood, Ridgemont Hills. It wasn't Beverly Hills, but it was the kind of place with old brick homes, iron gates, and perfectly trimmed hedges. I used to walk by there during the day, staring at the houses like they were from another world. As I leaned against the wall, I noticed a man sitting on the curb across the street, his shoulders hunched, a cigarette glowing faintly between his fingers. At first, I didn't think much of it. People sat around all the time. But something about the way he just sat there, not moving, not looking at his phone or anything, made me uneasy. I shook it off, went back inside, and busied myself restocking the cooler. It was maybe 12:30 when the door chimed and the man walked in. He was taller than I expected, built heavy, maybe late 30s or early 40s. He wore a dark jacket and jeans, his face half shadowed by the brim of a baseball cap. His boots made this hard click-clack against the tile as he walked up to the counter without picking up anything. "You," he said, his voice low but sharp. I blinked. Yeah? Can I help you?" "What were you looking at earlier?" My stomach dropped. I tried to play dumb. "What do you mean?" "Out there," he said, jerking his chin toward the houses behind us. "You were staring at my place. What were you looking at?" I froze. He was dead serious. "Oh, I wasn't looking at anything," I said quickly. "Just, stretching my legs, man. It's a long shift." His eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me." I felt my palms sweating. "I'm not lying. Look, I don't even know which house is yours." For a moment, he just stood there, breathing hard through his nose. Then, without a word, he stepped back, turned, and walked out. The door chimed shut. I thought that was it. But it wasn't. I went back to my tasks, but I couldn't shake the unease. I kept glancing at the door, expecting him to come back. I tried to distract myself by mopping the floor, then making a fresh pot of coffee. Around 1 a.m., I heard the sound. Click. Clack. Not footsteps inside, outside. I peered through the glass front doors, and there he was, standing by pump 3, a cigarette dangling from his lips, his hand resting on something heavy at his hip. My blood ran cold. I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe it was just his phone or a tool clipped to his belt. But then he shifted, and I saw the unmistakable outline of a gun. I backed away from the window, heart hammering. The door chimed again, and he walked in slower this time, his boots loud on the tile. He didn't browse. He didn't look around. He came straight up to the counter and leaned in close. "You think I don't notice? Guys like you casing the place? Looking at the windows, the doors, the rooftops? You think I don't see it? I swear, man, I wasn't—" "Shut up." His voice cracked like a whip. I froze. His hand brushed his jacket, and for a split second I saw the black metal of the gun under there. "Turn around," he ordered. My throat went dry. "What?" I said, "Turn around." I did. My whole body was trembling. "Put your hands on the counter." I obeyed, my palms pressed flat against the cold laminate. He muttered behind me, words spilling out in a messy tirade. "Cops don't do shit. Burglars break in, take what they want, and the law just lets them walk. So we gotta do it ourselves. We gotta protect what's ours." I tried to keep my voice steady. "I get it, man. Really, I do, but I'm not a burglar. I work here. I'm just trying to get through my shift." There was silence for a beat. Then the sound of him stepping closer, boots scraping. "You expect me to believe that?" Yes, I swear." My voice cracked. "Please, just look, I got an ID, a name tag, anything you want. I'm not here to mess with your house." Another long pause. My knees felt weak. Finally, I heard him take a sharp breath, then a click, the sound of the safety on a gun switching. My stomach lurched. But then, instead of firing, he stepped back. "I catch you near my house again," he growled. "I won't be so nice." I turned my head slightly, just enough to see him walking out the door, his shoulders stiff, his steps heavy. The door chimed one last time, and then he was gone. I didn't move for a long time. My hands stayed on the counter, my body frozen. When I finally worked up the courage to move, I locked the doors, shut off the lights, and sat behind the counter, shaking. Every sound outside, every car, every gust of wind made me flinch. I thought about calling the cops, but what would I even say? A guy with a gun came in and threatened me because he thought I was staring at his house. In that town, cops would probably shrug it off, or worse, make it my problem. So I sat there until 6 a.m. when Denise came back to relieve me. I didn't tell her what happened. I didn't tell anyone. But from that night on, every time I worked at the gas station, I kept one eye on the door, waiting for him to come back. People always warn you about bad neighborhoods, about sketchy motels and dark alleys. But no one tells you about the good neighborhoods, the ones with big houses and shiny cars, because sometimes the people who live there are the scariest of all. I never thought much about how dangerous night shifts could be until that summer when everything changed. My name is Daniel, and back then I was 19, just barely out of high school, living with my mom in a small beat-up town in central Texas called Ridgeway. Ridgeway wasn't the kind of place you'd brag about growing up in. Half the storefronts on Main Street were shuttered, the houses looked tired, and crime wasn't exactly uncommon. But it was home. When my dad walked out on us when I was 12, it left me with this heavy responsibility to help my mom out however I could. She worked 2 jobs, one cleaning houses during the day, another waiting tables at night, so money was always tight. I wasn't great in school, never really had a clear plan for college, so when I graduated, I picked up the first steady job I could find. That job ended up being at a Tex Fuel gas station right on the edge of town, the kind of place that stayed open 24 hours but rarely saw more than a handful of customers after 10 p.m. It was quiet, easy work for the most part, stocking shelves, cleaning up, manning the register. But the isolation at night could be eerie, especially since the station sat right off a lonely stretch of highway with nothing but open land and scattered woods around it. I usually worked the night shift alone from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. My mom hated it. She'd beg me to look for something else, but jobs in Ridgeway were scarce, and this one at least kept gas in the car and food in the fridge. "Be careful, Danny," she'd always say when I left for work. I used to laugh it off, but her voice would linger in my head during the long, empty nights. That Friday started like any other. The Texas heat hadn't let up even though the sun was setting, and the cicadas were screaming outside as I pulled into the cracked parking lot of Tex Fuel. The fluorescent sign buzzed overhead, flickering like it was struggling to stay alive. I grabbed my backpack, slung it over my shoulder, and stepped inside. "Evening, Danny boy," called out Craig, the guy I was relieving from the day shift. Craig was in his late 40s, a wiry guy with a scruffy beard who had been working at the station forever. He was friendly enough, but always looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Anything I should know?" I asked, clocking in. "Nah," he said, pulling on his faded ball cap. "Couple drunks came through earlier, nothing serious. Place is stocked, registers are good. Oh, but that light in the far corner of the lot's out again. You might want to keep an eye out when you're outside. Feels darker than hell over there." I nodded, not thinking much of it at the time. The light over the diesel pumps had been out for weeks, and management never bothered fixing it. Craig gave me a tired wave and headed out. The glass doors whooshed shut behind him, leaving me in the humming quiet of the store. I got into my routine, checked the coolers, wiped down the counters, restocked the chips and candy aisle. The hours crept by slowly with only the occasional customer. A trucker grabbing coffee, a young couple buying cigarettes. By midnight, things had gone dead quiet. I was leaning on the counter, scrolling through my phone when the bell above the door chimed. I looked up, expecting another trucker, but instead a man stepped inside. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with a thin frame that looked almost unhealthy. His clothes were worn, Faded jeans, a hoodie despite the heat, the hood pulled low over his face. There was something off about the way he moved, slow but deliberate, like every step had weight behind it. "Evening," I said, trying to sound casual. The man didn't answer right away. He wandered down the snack aisle, his hands brushing lightly over the bags of chips without picking anything up. I kept watching him, a knot forming in my stomach. Something about him just felt wrong. Finally, he came up to the counter. His hood shadowed most of his face, but I could see pale skin and sharp features, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He set a bottle of water down. "That it for you?" I asked, scanning the bottle. He just stared at me for a moment, then said quietly, "You work here alone, don't you?" The question froze me. I forced a laugh. "Yeah, night shift's pretty slow. Not many people come through this late." He tilted his head, still smiling faintly. "Doesn't that scare you, being out here all by yourself?" My throat went dry. I swiped his card quickly and handed it back. "No, man, it's fine. Been doing it a while." He leaned in slightly, close enough that I could smell his breath. Something sour, metallic. His voice dropped lower. "You shouldn't be alone out here." Before I could respond, he grabbed the water bottle and walked out. The bell above the door jingled, and then he was gone, swallowed by the darkness outside. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was overreacting. People said weird stuff all the time. Maybe he was just trying to mess with me. Still, I couldn't stop glancing toward the windows, half expecting to see him standing out there in the shadows. Around 12:45, I stepped outside to take the trash out back. The night air was heavy and warm, and the buzzing of insects filled the silence. I dragged the trash bag across the lot to the dumpster, keeping my eyes on that dark corner near the diesel pumps where the light was out. That's when I saw him. The same man from before. He was standing in the shadows near the broken light, just watching me. My chest tightened. "Hey, man," I called out, trying to sound tougher than I felt. "You can't hang around here. You need to go." He didn't move. I quickly tossed the trash and headed back inside, locking the doors behind me. My hands were trembling. I thought about calling the cops, but what would I even say? Some guy bought water and then stood in the parking lot? They'd never take it seriously. The store was silent except for the hum of the coolers. Minutes crawled by. I kept scanning the security monitors, but the cameras barely reached that dark corner. At 1:15, the bell chimed again. I looked up and froze. It was him. This time, his hood was down. His face was gaunt, his eyes sunken and wide, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He walked right up to the counter, not even pretending to shop. "You didn't answer my question," he said. I swallowed hard. "What question?" He leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Aren't you scared?" I forced myself to hold his gaze. "Look, man, if you don't buy something, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." His lips curled into a grin. "Or what? You'll call the cops?" "They won't get here in time." My heart slammed against my ribs. I reached slowly under the counter where the panic button was and pressed it. The man tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "That won't save you." Suddenly, he lunged across the counter, his hands shooting for my throat. I stumbled back, his fingers brushing my neck as I fell against the cigarette rack. I grabbed the only thing within reach, a box cutter we used to open shipments, and slashed wildly. He screamed, clutching his arm, blood seeping through his sleeve. His eyes burned with rage as he staggered back toward the door. "You'll regret this," he hissed before shoving the door open and disappearing into the night. I stood there shaking, the box cutter still in my hand, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. A minute later, the red and blue lights of a patrol car washed across the windows. The cops burst in, but of course he was long gone. I gave my statement, showed them the security footage, but it was grainy, his face never fully visible. They searched the area but found nothing. One officer patted my shoulder and said, "We'll keep an eye out." But I knew they wouldn't. Ridgeway had bigger problems than one creep harassing a gas station clerk. When my mom picked me up at the end of my shift, I broke down in the car, telling her everything. She wanted me to quit right then and there, but I couldn't. We needed the money. It's been months since that night, and I still work at TexFuel. I carry pepper spray now, and I keep the box cutter closer than ever. Some nights when the store is empty and the silence stretches on, I swear I can feel eyes on me from that dark corner of the lot. He's out there somewhere, waiting. And I know deep down, he's not finished with me.